All right, so the war on corruption is on. And of course, we're trying to lance that boil, stanch the flow of corruption in this country. Will this particular vigor yield something, or will it taper off with time? We just want to hear from our panelists this morning what they have to say, and if any of them have been affected by the ongoing, of course, corruption scandals in any way, right, remotely or closely. We just want to hear from them. And we started the show talking and introducing some of them to you, and some of them have joined us. Professor Noah Midamba has joined us. He is the Vice Chancellor of KC University, also an expert on defense and foreign policy. We do have with us Ambassador Russell Musyoka, who is the former Deputy Chair of the African Union, also Dr. Hassan Hanenje, who is the Director at the Horn Institute, and we do have with us as well Dr. Mumunzao, who is a governance and security strategist. Gentlemen, let's continue with the discussion, and I welcome to you also Professor Noah Midamba. The fight on corruption, what has been going, the demolition, and we've had people reacting variously as far as this is concerned, but it has begun. The tide is, of course, rising and swallowing a lot, especially people who have been on riparian land. And cases are coming to the fore. Now we can see the recent one is about the Weston Hotel that now is actually residing on a public land. And this is from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. And the ongoing demolitions from Kileleshwa, also the demolitions happening here in Langata and elsewhere. We saw also that particular bulldozer, or we can call it the wreck ball, also now is headed to Mombasa. So the shivers should go down the spine of so many people who maybe they're on riparian land as well. But we heard from all this, our panelists. Let's just hear from Professor Noah Midamba, especially on corruption. Have you been affected in any way, sir?
Yeah, the top part of my building. And
top part of your building?
Yeah, and I'm happy about it.
Your building?
Yeah. Not my own.
Oh, not your own. Where you reside?
Where I reside.
Ah. So you don't have a wall in your house?
No. They took the swimming. they took the swimming pool.
So you don't swim now?
And the rec room is gone. They put it. So my friend sitting here the same.
Who? This is Dr. Hanenje?
Yeah, Hanenje.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You neighbor one another?
No, we are close.
Oh, you are?
We are close neighbors.
Oh, you are culprits?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Here's what I want to say.
Yes.
The ball. General Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War centuries ago. And what he said, what is so important, is you go to war as a last resort. First of all, you focus on diplomacy, solve problem through communication and everything. And when you decide to go to war, number one, be very clear about your objective. And number two, be prepared to take on and win. Okay, that's what General Jude. And this story really is reflect to in the situation we are in.
Yes.
Because Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore went to war. The Korean people went to war. In America, there was Al Capone in Chicago,
yes,
who controlled the entire area. They basically came from southern Italy, from Sicily, really criminal mind. And America went to war and busted all these people. And now the country is back to normal. Here's the situation. We're at a war. And my fellow citizen ought to be aware that this is no joke. The 4 pillars the president have established will not work unless we win this war. This war is not only for the president, it is for Kenya people. The corruption has eaten in the very fabric of our society. It has promoted ethnic conflict. It has destroyed the youth opportunities that the youth have.
Yes.
It has denied our country opportunity to grow, and then it has destroyed our image overseas. And therefore, in order to take this war on,
yes,
every citizen, including all of us who are sitting here, the press, the civic groups, the higher education, everybody must join the president because we must cleanse this enemy out of our system. I suggest that we need to have a special prison established. We need to have a special court and special judges that are ready to work 24/7 in order for us to have any dent on it at all. I'm very proud of my friends, Professor Kivutha Kibwana
Yes.
and Professor Nyong'o, for the role they're playing in the country, and particularly in the county. If everybody can follow that example, every single Kenyans take on this war.
Yes.
We will have a dent on it, and we will have opportunity grow. We will give youth the opportunity, and our country will be part of the boom that is expected in Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Naomi Damba. Let's hear from Russell Musyoka.
Well, first of all, I would advise my good friends here
To do their due diligence.
and Hassan to move the river. I think technology is coming.
Technology is
that
coming.
we can even move Masai Mara to some place. But on a serious note,
Yes.
interestingly, even at the African Union Summit this year, it was about corruption. And as a run-up to that, there was a study done showing the statistics indicating how much money Africa is losing through corruption. It's horrendous. Billions, more than the aid that we get, and a lot of that is also kept abroad. And so that is an issue that we should also face very squarely. The second aspect, if you look at what has happened in places like South America, where you could see, say, drugs being the basis of corruption, three things happen. First of all, it affects the politics of the region, it affects the security, it affects the economy. And many of you would remember that even the booming building industry that we saw in the last few years, a lot of it was also because of what was happening. You can see the figures that you showed on the board.
Yes.
Funds flowing from Somalia,
Yes.
from Uganda, and all this through corruption.
I can show it again.
So corruption is a deadly thing. It's a deadly thing. But fighting it, Dipal, you asked a very interesting question. With this, what we see as a momentum at the moment, visa out. Now, let's cast our minds back to 2002, when you could see the public going to arrest a police officer.
Yes.
When it was said Kenyans were one of the happiest people in the world. But that fizzled out. I hope this time, and I can see the president leading from the front. The church is there. Last week I talked about Kenya Association, KEPSA and the rest. I think let's mobilize the society. First of all, we must have tools to start fighting it. Legislation, some kind of placards which we have on our car says, I don't give bribes and all this, so that people will be sensitized.
Right.
And as a follow-up to that, I think let us also note the moment we start having sacred cows,
Yes.
that's when it will start dying. Because you can see these guys now who are saying move rivers and the rest are fighting back. And so let's prepare to roll back. And for sure, it's not going to be easy.
Dr. Hanenje, so you're not protesting to remove the rivers from where you reside today?
Yeah, there are situations when rivers have to be moved, but it should because of impunity. And in those cases, I think in lots of the advanced countries, sometimes rivers are moved, either for environmental purposes or to protect those rivers themselves.
Yes.
Now, I've mentioned on this panel before that the president has to be willing to lose some friends
Yes.
in this war. Because this war is, the graft is so endemic in this country. It's not just physical, it's also psychological. And all of us are affected by it in one way or another. either actively participating in it or silently contributing to it. Now, if you ask me today, the biggest national security facing Kenya, it is not terrorism, it's corruption.
It's corruption.
It's corruption. Yeah, and we take it so lightly. If we were to prioritize actually the biggest threat facing our republic today, I think a lot more effort is going to be done. Now, having said that, as Professor just did mention, of course, some of us have been affected by the ongoing demolitions, and especially in this part of Riverside and Kileleshwa, and each time someone sees that green earth mover, they're panicking because you don't know what is going to happen to you. Now, they shouldn't be sacred cows, and I think a lot of us love the president and we support our president, especially in this war. He may lose a favor with some of the people who've grabbed public property, but I think it has a lot of support from Kenyans. Now, having said that, lots of landlords have not been informing their tenants that their property is going to be destroyed. And these tenants mostly are also Kenyans who are struggling. Some of them have private businesses. You know, they're selling their boutiques, they have salons. And when someone wakes up one morning and they find all their investment gone, I think we're also not doing justice to Kenyans. So what I would ask NEMA is at least to be informing. You can use whatever method. Go and inform the people, the tenants who live in those, let's say in a mall, they have business in there, that, well, this place, we're going to demolish it in about a day or 2 days. Please, you have 24 hours to leave. Because a lot of Kenyans who support other Kenyans, they have families, they have relatives, and of course there's also a supply chain in everything. So anytime you're making one Kenyan unemployed, you're probably making about 10 or 20 people who rely on that Kenyan. So even as we support this war against corruption, and especially in the grabbing of the riparian land, I think we should inform the tenants who pay rent and they're just doing genuine business, you know, hardworking Kenyans, that, look, I think you guys need to move. This property was erected in a wrong place, so they can have sufficient time to save them.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Momunzao briefly.
Yeah, I think this is a very important human security issue.
Yes.
And Dibal, you find that transparency and accountability are very important pillars in the democratic process. They are like surrogates of market forces in non-market conditions. They tell you the health of a country. And when you're not rated well in terms of some of these things, you look badly off as a country. And therefore, there are certain ideals as a people we should look to. The head of state is clear. He has the support of the people. He is forthright from word go. But there is need for what we call support and feedback. Because unless citizens support policies from what we call the Estonian model,
yes.
You need support. You need citizens who uphold civility and they look up to the ideals of their society as a people. Because if look at some of the estates, there are hardly places where children can play.
Yes.
And the children are locked up in buildings up the whole day, you know. It's very bad. And I even saw some youths in Dandora trying to clear out places that are garbage infested and all this, and just to create room for the children to play. And their greatest prayer is that we hope this land is not grabbed by someone who just finds it like it's idle. Because it's like everyone wants to build everywhere, including on top of the river. And those things therefore need to cease. So I'm just pointing to the fundamental issues. Then there are issues to do with procedural issues that Dr. Kanenje is alluding to. You know, how do you go about it? And how do you sustain? Because sometimes we build and then we destroy again, and we want to sustain. We want to see that places where the riparian areas that have been cleared out, wetlands and water catchments, are reclaimed. We want to see those places with trees and well manicured lawns in order to reclaim those rivers. There's a lot of metal underneath. There's need for what we call magnet fishing. You know, you take a whole big magnet rod, they do it out there, and drag it along the river, and you won't believe the kind of thing you'll see. All manner of rubble down there. And all that needs to be done so that we can get to the world standards that we want to be.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Emmanuel Kisengani from the University of Nairobi. Good morning, good to see you.
Morning.
Right, your reactions on ongoing, of course, demolitions on people who have erected buildings on riparian land as well. Do you think in any way this has a human face? Because a lot of people have been also saying it has been done in a very inhumane way. People are not warned in the first place, so we just find, you know, a wreck ball is coming in the morning to bring down the buildings, but there was no notice. But we do not understand, of course, the dynamics in between, as maybe the communication was there and people did not just move as swiftly as possible.
I doubt if the government can undertake something like that without prior notice.
Yes.
We've seen the case of Kibera, where various notices to the people, but then people occasionally are not convinced that it's going to happen. So anyhow, I know there's the rule of law, but thinking in the background of how impunity is entrenched in this country,
Yes.
I tend to think that there are cases where you need some dramatic measures, shock therapy,
Yes.
to deal with this problem. So unless you have something dramatic like that, it looks like people don't pick out lessons that they should not do certain things. So I'm not undermining the rule of law. I'm quite convinced that the government must have a plan in doing so. They must notify people. I don't think the government can just go in to bring people's houses down. But I think...
But don't you think for you that is a double think that you're expressing this morning, that yes, there's shock therapy, and of course you don't think the government is... has not given sufficient information or communication?
I'm just saying that I don't know if what the government is doing constitutes shock therapy. What I'm saying is that to fight impunity, you need something like that, at that level, where like even national level, we've been talking of, let's see roles falling. Let's see senior people behind bars, that it is only this way that it will send a signal to others. The Ghanaian former president, Jerry Rawlings, did something similar, and it helped to fight corruption and impunity in that country. So I'm saying there will, of course, if such measures are taken, there will be accusations and counter-accusations, but sometimes it's inevitable to have something like that, to have movement over the fight over corruption.
Right. Hassan, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Actually, one thing I was trying to explain earlier is it is true that the owners of the properties of the landlords are aware, but a lot of tenants, and I'm sure a lot of them are watching,
They're not aware.
they are not aware.
Okay, okay.
And so in those cases, the government has a responsibility to actually let them know that, hey, in case you haven't been informed, we are coming, and you better take care of yourself.
All right. No, Madam, let's close it at that with you.
The bulk, what we don't need anymore is more laws. The days of talk is over. The rule is there for every Kenyan to read and understand. We're in a war.
Yes.
We have to complete this war and save this country from impunity.
Continue.
Okay. Maybe just to chip in on that point of notices. And I tend to agree with what Professor is saying, Sangani, that you know what you have seen, and the way they fight against such moves is to run to court and obtain an injunction, and that can go on forever. And that corruption can also then go into the legal systems, and the case drags forever, and therefore you defeat justice.
Right.
So I think some shock therapy is also required, so long as it is this kind of method. If it's not selective, if it is not going to avoid these, warlords, I think let's support what the president is doing and let him continue to lead from the front. Let him lose friends, but he will gain more, and he will leave Kenya a better place.
Briefly, let's comment on actually giving the NYS a new face. Chief Executive Officer, we have this supply chain also being streamlined. Do you think in any way we need this overhaul? That is, because this will just be like a band-aid solution. We'll have the restructuring, but still also the paradigm shift that is still in the head is still there. do you think it's just a facade? Of course, this is a very good salutary gesture that is coming from, the president, but it is just like, musical chairs, but still the mind frame is still there. I don't know. Let's see. You've spoken. Let's hear from Dr. Mumunzao. Yeah.
Yes. The most important thing that makes a country great is the ability to set policies and to have a supporting culture for them so that they materialize. I mean, we have to believe in what the institutions we are trying to build. We just have to believe in them. Because you cannot have your cake and eat it. And so the head of state is just doing the right thing. I mean, you have corrupt people. They have been, I don't want to obstruct the due process, but I'm saying if someone has been accused of corruption, they've been taken to court, and that process is going on, someone has to be there to carry out the work, and that is what the government is doing.
Right, thank you.
But we need a supporting culture, and people have got to believe in this so that it can work.
Right.
Yeah, that is fundamental, and we have to, as a citizen, we have to support this.
Okay, Dr. Kisiangani?
Yeah, I think all other factors being constant, change of personnel in itself may not be very helpful. We need to divorce change of personnel from change of systems. So I know it is important, given the context where we're coming from. You cannot have the same people doing same things and expecting different results. So I know, one, the president means well. And one fundamental aspect that we've seen currently, and I can assure you, if you had a polling right now, the president will be enjoying a lot of goodwill, is political will. That is very fundamental. Once the president has expressed that he supports this and is supporting these new people, I can tell you there'll be a difference. But without political will, we saw during his first term all manner of accusations around corruption. So I think what the president is doing by having new people, I'm saying what is fundamental is that he supports. I mean, he did express that political will to support them. Thank you.
Right, let's hear from Professor Noami Damba lastly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dubal, in my university, KCA University, we teach accounting and we teach auditing. And 40% average of all accountants in Kenya produce at KCA University. There is a theory for every society which believe that 20% of population will always take the higher ground. They are moral, they are committed for the goodness, and irrespective of any situation, they cannot change. On the other extreme, there is 20% of people who have ingrown criminal mind, and they will seek to dodge to opportunity to do everything. And therefore, we have 60% in the middle. These 60% are watching and waiting for where the pendulum is swinging. If the pendulum swings left for the good people, they will swing that way. If it swings this way, they will swing that way. And therefore, what we need to do, and what the president is doing, for God's sake, is to demonstrate to the public and to Kenya people that he's serious about fighting corruption. And therefore, all of us need to join as troops to weed this enemy out of our midst.
Okay, let's hear from Dr. Khanenje.
I think the president means well, but a lot of us are still waiting to see what happens to those people who were carrying NYA's money in guineas. Now, as Kenyans, we should avoid the temptation of putting lipstick on a pig and hoping somehow it becomes a supermodel.
Right, thank you. Dr. Russell Musyoka.
Okay, just a quick one, particularly on NYS. Let me say that I don't understand that at all, but when I saw the press briefing from the cabinet, two questions came to my mind. One of them says that they are going to reorganize and make it to a corporate body. The question then I ask myself, are we perhaps in a panic mode that, okay, let's fix it? Because as he said early on, he mentioned that we don't need more laws. And I don't know which corporate body perhaps would be insulated from corruption. And as Dr. Sangani said, it is not changing of persons that will work, but we must then accompany it, and I think this has been said by the panelists, by systems that we ensure that are followed. It is not simply having structures,
yes,
but also systems. Having said that, perhaps I should use this opportunity in view of our professor who's the Chancellor of Kenya College of Accountants, to say today we are KCA
University.
Yeah. So it's not a college.
No.
But okay, and I agree with that.
But
today we are mourning one of the founders of this college.
Yeah.
His name is the late Henry Obocha. He was a cabinet minister. He's one of those founders of this college. I know him because he's somebody I know. He died very humble. He never looted. And you can see the honor and the glory he has received from Kenya because of living honorably.
Yes.
I just want to appeal to Kenyans. I think, when you have to end up being handcuffed and put in jail for something of this nature, you leave your family traumatized. And that is not a legacy you want to leave behind. So let's appeal to Kenyans to shun this evil that is really now endemic in our society.
Right. Maybe I should also draw your attention, because in light of this, the fight on corruption right now, if you look at what is on the front page of the Star this morning, and we'd actually shown you the dailies. Now we know that Ruto built Weston Hotel on aviation land. This is from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. We are keeping our eyes peeled and keeping out our ears to see how will this really pan out, right? Because now we have someone in the upper reaches of government, which is the executive, who allegedly, so to speak, has grabbed land, right? This is according to what the Daily is saying here. Maybe we can come back to you, Professor Naomi Dama, to comment on this. If we have someone, and these are the people who are saying, no, we support, the fight on corruption, right? And everyone who is obstructing this, of course, shall be dealt with severely. And then you actually find yourself in this particular dragnet. So which way to go?
Dubal, no secret cow, no stone left unturned. I was pleased with the governor of Nairobi the other day when he said he has property in eastern part of Nairobi, which sit on the road reserve, and is prepared to have this property mowed down. No secret cow, whether it is belong to the president or deputy president or anybody else, take it down.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the public where it belongs.
Right.
My friend here has talked about our founder, one of our founder of KCA University. He died honorable. He's respected by community. He gave all he had to the public. Those people are in Kenya. Let's find them. And any single person who goes to work for government, any single member of parliament who take $10,000 for 10,000 shillings, for God's sake,
yes,
they earn 1 million. Shame on them. Remove them. Vote them out. Let us reclaim Kenya back. And let's make sure that anyone going in to work on behalf of government knows the consequences of doing this kind of thing.
For the longest time, I've been wondering ever since, which are these sacred cows, right? Yeah. Are we here to see a sacred cow?
I think first of all, I was so happy to see.
Are we here to see a sacred cow?
Yeah, I'm going to answer it in that context. If you look at this Kocha Mosque, or the mosque, they came forward. I mean, going to destroy a place of worship is not an easy matter. But you see, that community came forward and said, look, we acknowledge we are in the wrong place, let's do it. And I've seen many of our leaders, including the DB and the rest, have said they are going to support corruption. If indeed, I mean, you may have acquired this thing without realizing that you are traversing the law or whatever, or with impunity, and now there is change of heart, you've been transformed, come forward and say, destroy it. And that will really keep them respected. And as you say, yes, we have yet to see, because when, as we said earlier on, when you have the big fish respected, you lose faith in the country.
Right. Let's hear from Dr. Hassan Khanenje.
If property is built on aviation land, then either it's an aviation property or it's an illegal structure that should be removed. I don't think there should be a question to that. Now, Professor Midamba, you said should not be no sacred cows. I just wanted to remind you that some parts of the world where a cow is sacred. So be careful when you say that. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yes, but I think it's going to restore a lot of faith among Kenyans. Kenyans have been very skeptical when it comes to efforts of fighting corruption, in part because those who are in power, or those who are seen, in the words of Professor Midamba, sacred cows, a lot of times are never touched. So if in fact it is true that Weston Hotel is built on aviation land, either it should be reclaimed by aviation or it should be removed.
It should be removed.